In this video, I will be creating a simple cat or dog categorization task in Gorilla. The main things we need to cover are displaying important information to the participant, gaining consent from the participant, importing the images that we're going to use, setting up the spreadsheet so as we can select the images that we display and also the randomization of those images, setting up response keys, and letting Gorilla know what the correct response is. Experiments in Gorilla are built in a modular fashion, meaning that you create all of the components of your experiment first and then link them together for the final product in a linear flow. The first step is to make a project. So let's head over to the project button and create a new project. A project can be thought of as an overarching area of research. Let's say you're doing a PhD. This may go for several years and have several experiments. All of these experiments, which are made up of individual modules, exist within the same project. So let's call our project Categorization. And we hit OK. Now you can see we can have our experiments, and they're going to be built out of our tasks and our questionnaires. So let's start by creating a questionnaire. And we'll call this questionnaire Experiment Info and Consent Form. Now we just press OK. In our experiment info and consent form, we need to add all the experiment information. So let's add a widget and a rich text box and press create. Now we can simply write experiment information. Now if we put a hashtag in front, it changes the heading level to a level 1. 2 hashtags is a level 2, and 3 hashtags is a level 3. So let's go experiment information, and then all of the information goes here, and you can fill that in with whatever you need for yours. And then we add another widget, and we can make a page break, and then another widget below the page break, and another rich text icon. And we can have all of our participant information. All of the participant information goes here. Now as you can see, it's not appearing in this live preview, and that's because of the page break. So let's go to page 2, and there's all of our information. So let's add a third page. So we need a page break, and then we need our consent. So let's first add a rich text box. And let's call this consent form. And then we can add a further widget, and we'll add the consent box. And in this box we can say, I consent to participating in this study. Now the response will be stored in a spreadsheet. So we can just call it consent given. Now by design, as you'll see in a moment, the user cannot continue until consent is given. So although it stores information, that's a legal requirement. However, like I said, by design, the experiment can only be done if consent is given. Now let's add another page break. And we'll add a widget, and it'll be rich text. And in this rich text, we will write cat or dog categorization experiment. This is where we put all of our experiment instructions. So we'll say, if you see a dog, press A. If you see a cat, press L. Now if we go to the live preview, we can see page 3 is consent, and page 4 is the cat or dog categorization experiment. If you see a dog, press A. If you see a cat, press L. Let's commit this version, and we'll just say experiment information and consent complete. And then let's go back to the categorization project. And now let's create a task builder task. Now this is the actual experiment that we're going to build. So let's press the button and we can call it experiment. Press OK. Now you'll see there's a little plus button. This is for the scene. So let's just press that and we'll call it trial. Within the scene, we can add a whole range of different things. However, we'll start with a blank image for now. Just press OK and select the screen. And then we can edit layout. And we can add a zone. Now this zone, let's say we want 50% of the screen covered. And then we'll add another zone, and we can select the zone and we can call it key responses. And then we can select the response, and we're going to have a keyboard response multi. And we press OK. And then we go back to our big scene, and we'll call this image. And the content will of course be an image. And then we press done. And when we select the image, we can then go to the spreadsheet and we can say stimuli. Now press OK, and you'll see that it comes up in green right here. Now green is a variable. Now to get access to the variable, we need a spreadsheet, but we also need the stimuli. So firstly, let's go to stimuli and add new stimuli. So then we just choose files, and then we've got our images. Now for this experiment, I'm going to have 6 cats and 6 dogs. These images will be randomly displayed to the participant, and all 12 will be repeated 6 times. So just highlight all of them and open, and upload. Once the upload is successful, press done, and now we can see all 12 of our images have been uploaded. The next step is to go to the spreadsheet, and we can download a spreadsheet as a template and then re-upload with all of our information included. So download and open that spreadsheet. And then we can see we've got randomized blocks, randomized trials, display, answer, and stimuli. And in our stimuli, we have 12 images. So we have cat1.jpg, cat2.jpg, cat3.jpg, cat4, cat5, and cat6. And we also have 6 of the dog images. Alright, now these have to match the name of the images that we uploaded. So make sure that everything is the same for all of these images. And then we need to provide the correct answer. And in this case, it's cat. So if they're displayed a cat, the answer is cat. And if they're displayed a dog, the answer is dog. Now there are our 12 trials, and they're called trial, and we want to display all 12. We also want these randomized. Now to do that, we have to group them. Currently, Gorilla will just go from cat 1 through to dog 6 in that order. However, if we label them all with a number 1, they'll be randomly selected from that group. So now we can save that spreadsheet and close it, and then upload the spreadsheet. So if we go to Downloads and Spreadsheet and press OK, now we have all our information in this spreadsheet. And as you can see, the stimuli is the variable. So if we go back to task structure, we can see stimuli is the variable. So the image that it will select is from the spreadsheet. Now let's go back to task structure again and scroll down, and the image has advanced settings. We can set the duration, and this is in milliseconds, so let's do 1500 milliseconds and press OK. And then further down we have our response keyboard. Now this is the A or the L. So simply we have to write if A and press OK. If A is pressed, record response as, and we said dog was the correct answer for A. Now if they press L, the response will be recorded as cat, and we press OK. And the final thing is if a response's value matches answer, it represents the correct answer. Again, this is in green, which means it's a variable. So let's have a look. If A is pressed, record response as dog. Now does dog equal the answer? We go back to our spreadsheet, and our answer is dog. So their response is dog, and the answer is dog. Therefore, their response is correct. Now, enable sudden death means that they only get to choose one response. First answer recorded only. Now that that's complete, we can just go through our spreadsheet and make sure that everything is in green and spelt right. And the answer is also case sensitive. So if we wrote cat with a capital C, our task structure would also need a capital C. Now let's save this version. Let's commit it. Cat or dog experiment. And commit. And then we go back to our categorization. And now we have all of our modules that we need to create an experiment. So let's create an experiment. And we'll call this cat or dog experiment. Now all experiments start with a start and a finish. This is the template that we need to work with. So let's add a new node, and we can add our questionnaire and scroll down and press OK. And then we just select experiment info and consent form. And then we can also add our task. And this is the experiment, and we press OK. Now let's just make some room. We'll put the start there, and we'll put the finish down here. That should give us plenty of room. So let's put our information and consent form in. Now all we have to do is we have to drag from the start to the experiment information and consent form. And now that links it in a flow design, and you can visually see this one goes into the start and through it and comes out at this node here. Under that node, we want our experiment. However, we want our experiment to repeat. So let's go to this repeat function, and we can say we want it to repeat 6 times. Press save, and this prints out 2 more boxes. So the first box goes above, and the second box goes below. And in the same fashion, we can link these. So we see the experiment information and consent form goes into the repeat, and the repeat goes into the experiment, and then the experiment gets sent to the repeat, which then goes around 6 times before it then gets spat out at the other end. Now the other end is the finish. Now that our experiment is created, we can simply commit the version, and we can say experiment complete, and then commit. Now we can preview our experiment. So all of our information for our experiment, all of our participant information, our consent form. Again, if we don't give consent, we cannot continue. So let's consent, and we get our information on the experiment. So A for dog, or L for cat. Now we press next. And straight away when it loads, images will start to appear. And there's our cat. And there's our dog. And the images will disappear after 1.5 seconds. Once we run through all 12 images, you'll notice the screen will reload. And now the screen's reloading, and all 12 images appear again in another random order. I'll skip to the end, and I'll show you the output. Alright, now that that's complete, you can see that for every loop of the experiment, it saved a spreadsheet. So let's just open one of these. And now we can see we've got all of our events, or our trials. And if we scroll to the right, we have our response, whether or not they attempted it, and whether they got it correct. The 1 represents a correct response. So as you can see, everything is set up, and we can close that spreadsheet and go back to the editor. And this is how you create a simple categorization experiment in Gorilla.